This is your Olympic hero and former WWE champion, Kurt Angle. And I just wanted to give a shout out to my guys, Clint and Noah. When it comes to covering sports, there is no one better. And believe me, that's true. It's damn true.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun.
I am the best in the world at what I do.
Gentlemen, you are the top 1%. The elite. Best of the best.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
You are now listening to the Elite Sports Podcast, the pinnacle of hard-hitting sports talk, featuring weekly expert analysis and top-notch interviews. And now, please welcome your hosts, Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groninger.
This is the Elite Sports Podcast, and this is the NFL Draft 2020. Noah, this is going to be a much different draft than we're used to. Still going to be broadcast across ESPN and NFL Network, but we were able to hop on some conference calls this week with Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah to kind of talk about things, get things, set the scene, so to speak, for this draft, which, Noah, is going to be very different. You brought this up a long time ago before really the announcement had been made. We weren't sure how this was going to go. The draft is supposed to be taking place in Las Vegas, a huge event. And now we are to the point where everything is on Zoom. Zoom meetings are abound. You brought this up. You said this is going to be the biggest roll of the dice draft, maybe in NFL history. And a lot of people are starting to agree with you. And we'll hear from Daniel Jeremiah later talking about that very thing.
Yeah, I mean, the lack of pro days, not being able to get these players in the building and having your own medical team look them over. I mean, just how is this going to affect players that weren't invited to the combine, that didn't get the pro day, and that didn't get to meet the teams face-to-face and win them over, or talk about their injury history, or have the team's medical team look them over and give them the okay. So you could see some players slide here that they just don't have enough information on. So I think round one, we kind of know a lot of those guys. I'm sure we're at the scouting combine and that are going to be drafted. So they've got a lot of information on them. They're at the Senior Bowl and all that sort of stuff there. But when you're looking at rounds 2, 3, 4, it's just going to be less and less information as we go down the line. So teams are really going to be struggling and trying to be on these Zoom meetings with their scouts and player personnel people to talk to them and get their feelings on certain guys. If it's coming down between 2 and 3 guys, or they're not just going to have that feeling of looking them in the eyes. I saw Brian Billick on NFL Network, the former Ravens and Vikings head coach, and talking to guys face to face when it's coming down to 2 or 3 people, that's really valuable to the final decision maker, whether that's the head coach or the GM. And they're not going to have that. It's going to be over a Zoom. It's going to be different. So it's definitely going to be an interesting process. And maybe 5 years down the road, we'll see if it's better not to have all this information, or if it's worse and we really needed all that information to make the best picks.
Well, coming up here, stay tuned because we're going to be talking with Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network. Mel Kiper from ESPN. We're going to be, displaying some of the key quotes, some of the stuff we were able to talk with them about on their conference calls. So some really keen information that you're not going to hear anywhere else. So a lot of rumors flying that the Chiefs could actually be interested in drafting up to draft Henry Ruggs, the receiver from Alabama, who ran, I believe, a 4.29 40. So the Chiefs trying to amass a lot of speed, a lot of rumors there. It's going to be hard for them to get up there and do that. And we're going to hear later about some of the receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, some of the other guys that are involved in this thing. Noah, moving up to get Henry Ruggs, that seems like a bit of a pipe dream for the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. Even drafting DeAndre Swift at 32, it doesn't seem like where the Chiefs might go with this unless they're just really trying to load up on the skilled positions, which I'm all for.
Oh, absolutely. But you mentioned moving up to kind of get in position to possibly draft Henry Ruggs, the third out of Alabama, speedy receiver. People have likened him to Tyreek Hill. So the rumors that the Chiefs are wanting to move up and just have a monopoly on all the fastest players in the NFL is great. Love to hear that. But to move up, it looks like at 11, the Jets, and then 12, the Broncos, 12, the Raiders, and 13, the 49ers. Those are going to be the spots that the receivers are going to start coming off the board. So you're going to want to move to 10, 9, 8. But I think the most possible move would be to move up to 7 because the Carolina Panthers are in need of a defensive tackle. And if the Chiefs want to move up to 7, they've got a piece in Chris Jones that could be very valuable in helping them move up there. That gives the Panthers their defensive tackle, and not just some draft pick, some hopeful. You like his prospects. It looks like they have the mocked here, Derek Brown, the defensive tackle out of Auburn. But to give them still a young player in Chris Jones, a talented, maybe the best or second best right behind Aaron Donald, defensive tackle in the league, that might be able to propel the Chiefs from 32 up to 7. I'm not sure what else would have to be given on either side to make that deal work, but Chris Jones is a good start to try to get up there, and that's where you could get ahead of the teams like the Jets, the Niners, and the Raiders to pick that receiver in Henry Ruggs.
Well, we already know where the cards are going to fall with the number 1 pick. Joe Burrow, the quarterback from LSU, the Heisman Trophy winner, very likely to go number 1 overall. But what we're going to get into is the second quarterback to be taken. We're going to hear from Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah about some of the quarterbacks. You've got someone like Mel Kiper that's already has Justin Herbert mocked to the Miami Dolphins at 5. What sets him apart? Why would someone like Justin Herbert be picked ahead of Tua Tagovailoa? We're going to get into that and much more. I mean, to me, when it comes to Justin Herbert, you're going to agree with me on this. You're talking about someone that has the tools, has the size, someone like, I don't know, a Mitch Trubisky that maybe has a ceiling that isn't going to go very high. But meanwhile, you got someone like Tua that you think about the pocket presence, the accuracy, the timing, and the upside. Tua is coming off an injury. We all know that, but I really don't understand the love for Justin Herbert and even the love for Jacob Eason that Mel Kiper is going to talk about here in just a minute.
No, I don't get it at all. You've got Justin Herbert there. Yeah, he's not an injury-prone guy, but he just doesn't have the tools. He hasn't put it all together yet. So you're taking a guy at 5 that to me might be, like you said, a Mitch Trubisky and Andy Dalton type. I just don't get it. Yeah, Tua has the injury history, but you've seen him put it all together in college. The timing, the deep throws, the pocket presence, the leadership, everything that you're wanting to see out of a quarterback, you've seen out of Tua in college. Just the winning at a high level, the clutch gene late in games. Justin Herbert doesn't have any of that. He hasn't put it all together, but just because he's not injury prone, he doesn't have an injury history, that you're going to put him at 5? It just makes no sense. You're just elevating him just because he's a quarterback and he's the second one that has the prowess, has what you're looking for in the prototypical height and weight. He's got a strong arm, but he hasn't put it together. They lost to Arizona State last season. He had a chance to come back in that game to make plays for Oregon to win, and he just hasn't put it together, and you're going to bank on him putting it together when he gets to the NFL and you're spending a top 5 pick on him. It makes no sense. We've seen this before, the Josh Rosens of the world, and you just can't make someone put it together. Mitch Trubisky, he's got talent. We're going to draft him above Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, even though he only started 13 games in college. We're just going to throw him out there. We think we can coach him up. You can't coach these players up. Not to that level where you haven't seen him do it at all before, and now we're going to turn him into this franchise quarterback. It makes no sense. It's a horrible decision, but we'll hear what Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah have to say on it. Maybe they disagree.
Yeah, let's also sort through these receivers. The top 4 receivers sort of across the board. You're talking about 2 of them from Alabama, Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. We talked about him and the Chiefs' possibility of trading up to get him. And you're also talking about then Justin Jefferson from LSU and CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma. Sorting through this, which one comes off the board first? Which one should be coming off the board first? Henry Ruggs, of course, turning eyes with that 40 time. Jerry Jeudy, obviously just had such a spectacular career at Alabama. Justin Jefferson really came on this last year in the system of Joe Brady and with Joe Burrow at quarterback. How do we sort through this receiver situation?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just all the reports I'm hearing is that CeeDee Lamb is going to be the number 1 receiver taken, and it looks like to the Jets. They're kind of the first team that's receiver desperate out there. They just have nothing. They let go of Robbie Anderson in free agency. So they need a receiver, and it looks like it's going to be CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. He's a gamer, and that's just all that I keep hearing. He doesn't do a lot of things better than Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs. Doesn't have Jerry Judy's route running, doesn't have Henry Ruggs' speed. But he's just a gamer. He shows up. He's very consistent week in and week out. You know what you're going to get from CeeDee Lamb. So he looks like he's going to be the first. And I think the Raiders are going to be going after Henry Ruggs. The speed, I think it's overwhelming. They're going to try and match what the Chiefs are doing with Tyreek Hill. And in this mock that I'm seeing from Daniel Jeremiah, he's got Jerry Jeudy going to the Raiders. But I think the allure. The Raiders have always had an allure with speed, top-end speed, taking the roof off. I know they drafted Darius Hayward-Bay out of Maryland a long time ago just because of the speed. Unfortunately, he couldn't play receiver. He wasn't a very good football player for them. So I think they're going to go with Henry Ruggs. They're going to be attracted to the speed and the fact that they can have their own little Tyreek Hill. But Jerry Jeudy, to me, is by far and away the best receiver in this class with his route running and just he's the ready-made guy. Like, he's ready to just plug and play. He's the guy that can come in, learn your system. He's the most pro-ready receiver out of the bunch. So I think Jerry Jeudy's going to be the steal, and looks like he could go to the 49ers. So that's going to be good for them. And Justin Jefferson, I really like. He's going to be probably the fourth guy off the board. He gives you a versatility, kind of does everything well. He doesn't do anything great. He does everything well, just a well-rounded receiver. So he'll be the fourth guy, and whoever gets him will be very happy in what they've drafted.
Well, let's get to the bottom of this. We're going to bring on Mel Kiper. This was from a conference call that we did with Mel recently with members of the media, so we were able to get to some things. And we start off with Mel talking about quarterback prospect Jacob Eason out of Washington, and he has him mocked to the Indianapolis Colts as an heir apparent to Andrew Luck.
I think he's a second rounder. That's where I projected him in the mock yesterday. Having gone to Indianapolis, would be a very good heir apparent to Phillip, learn behind Rivers for a year or two, and then have a chance. With his rocket arm, he's got that imposing size at 6'6" and a quarter, 236. What he needs to do, when you look at that guy like Jacob Eason, is actually 6'5" and 6'5 and 3/4, 231. 6'5 and 3/4, 231 is his exact height and weight. But what he has to do is become more consistent from quarter to quarter. I had made note during the year, Oregon, Utah, fourth quarter, Leeds at home, didn't get it done there. That completion percentage was 73% in the first quarter, dropped to 58% in the fourth quarter, actually 59% as well in the entire second half. So after teams made adjustments, he was contained. So I think that's the concern with him, is the levels of inconsistency. But that one, talent with his size, like I said, kid's so almost 6'6", 230, 235 pounds, and he's got the rock. He's got arguably as good as arm as any kid to come out in recent years. Right up there, maybe not the top, but right up there near the top, certainly in the upper half, upper group. And the work behind Rivers will be a good thing for him.
Okay, now Mel Kiper is going to talk a little bit about the comparisons between Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert and why he thinks that Tua may be a great fit for the Los Angeles Chargers.
With Tua, I think some think he could drop a little bit. I think the Chargers would be a great fit. To answer your question about what are teams saying, teams aren't telling anybody what they're taking or who they're taking. This is coming from other teams speculating about what they're hearing. If you're smart, you don't let anything out. There was information that the Giants like Daniel Jones, but nobody really knew for sure last year were they going to take him early or wait. If you like a quarterback, you take him, and you don't wait. And if I'm the Chargers, I would be happy to get him at 6. Justin, I think at times was good. He was just erratic in that regard. He didn't have great talent around him. Phenomenal talent like some of the other quarterbacks did, like Tua. So, he didn't have that. When he went to the Senior Bowl, he showed he could go through his progressions. He could throw with better anticipation. And he did make throws even in the game on the move outside the pocket. So I think Justin's kind of a developing player. You're seeing glimpses of what could happen when it all comes together for him.
Moving on, Mel makes some very interesting points about the Las Vegas Raiders and the idea that they could draft quarterback Jordan Love out of Utah State. He makes some really strong statements about what the Raiders are going to have to do to compete with the Chiefs atop the AFC West.
I've been around John a lot. I know he always talks about the young quarterbacks, and everybody's got mixed views on how he's going to go that way. So when I say it's mixed, it's because some think he's maybe going to take one, some think he won't because he doesn't like the young quarterbacks. He likes the veterans. He had Rich Gannon, and he had Brad Johnson. He almost thought he could have got to a Super Bowl with Rich. Of course, the Tuck rule prevented that, and don't bring it up with John. But again, you go back to Brad Johnson, won a Super Bowl at Tampa. So John has had success with guys, the veterans, but he always seemed to me, and so I say the opinion's mixed on John, is because to me he seemed frustrated by the fact he was never hand-picking a quarterback. Now, I don't know how he feels about Jordan Love. Jordan Love can spin it, though. His arm talent is excellent. He's got 2 first-round picks. You can address another need area and then use that pick to be the guy that takes over for Carr down the road. If Carr's kind of a plateau quarterback, then you have a guy in 2 years can be the guy. If Carr is a great quarterback, and not just a good one, but he's a great one, and you can beat Patrick Mahomes with Derek Carr, because that's the key to that whole thing there. Who is the quarterback can beat Patrick Mahomes? Because if you don't, you're not winning the division. So, that's what your goal is. You want to get the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. Well, you got to beat the team. And Mahomes isn't going away. He's a young kid. He's got 15 more years minimum in this league. So you got, if you think the Carr is good but not great, and you think Love can be great, then you take Love. It's a win-win. You've got 2 first-round picks. If Carr turns out to be great, great. If Mariota steps in like Tannehill did last year for him, great. But if they don't, then in 2-3 years you got Jordan Love, who maybe can emerge. If they are in the answer, then you go back to the drawing board and you try again. But I think it's a win-win in that regard for that reason.
Chiefs fans might want to listen up to this next one as well, as Mel talks about linebacker from LSU, Patrick Queen, someone that has been showing up on a few of the Chiefs draft boards. Could he fall to 32? Likely not, but there's rumors that the Chiefs could be trading up to possibly get Queen or even Kenneth Murray, the linebacker from Oklahoma.
Well, I think in terms of Queen, he fits what they need. He can fly to the football. He's perfect for the way the game's played now with that 4.5 speed. He had a great year at LSU. If that's a 245-pound, first and second down guys anymore. You got to have guys who can play every down. He can cover.
Moving on now to our conference call with Daniel Jeremiah. He kind of starts things off here by breaking down the receivers. We did that a little earlier here in this podcast, but he's going to be talking about the main receivers in this draft and why Henry Ruggs compares very favorably to one Tyreek Hill.
Well, I think they're outstanding. It's a 31 flavors receiver group this year. You can like a lot of them. It's just different flavors. It's what you're looking for. I have CeeDee Lamb as my top guy because of everything he can do. He can line up outside. He can win versus press coverage with his physicality. He's unbelievable after the catch. He's the best after the catch of the receivers in this draft, in my opinion. He can break tackles. He can make you miss. He's ultra competitive. I think a lot of people have hit him on the fact that he played in the Big 12, and that's glorified 7-on-7. But when you watch him in the games they've played and they've stepped up in competition against Alabama, he had 8 for $109 and a touchdown. And then last year you saw him against LSU in that game. He had 4 for $119 in that game. So I don't buy into the fact that he's a product of the Big 12. But he's also somebody that can make plays above the rim. He can go up and get the ball down in the red zone. The word that I just keep coming back to him over and over again is just competitive. And that's why I have him as the top receiver. Jerry Jeudy next for me is the best route runner in the draft, and that's obviously very important. He does a lot of his work in the slot. I think that's where he's best suited at the next level, although he can play outside. But he wins right now off the line of scrimmage, and he is unbelievable at the top of his route to get in and out of the break point. He does have some drops. I think those are more concentration drops than really worrying about his hands. But that's an area he needs to clean up, and he can make you miss. He can make you miss after the catch. He's obviously got good burst, but not quite as physical after the catch, and not quite as physical at the catch point in terms of going up in traffic and making plays. I give CeeDee Lamb a little bit of the edge there. And then we get to Henry Ruggs. Everybody knows about the speed, but I think what people lose sight of is this kid has got natural hands. He's outstanding hands. He only dropped 1 ball this year. He attacks it. He trusts his hands. You think back to some of the speed receivers we've seen go in the first round that maybe people thought didn't live up to the billing. You think about Darius Hayward-Bay. He couldn't catch in college. You look at Bashad Perriman, his hands were questionable. Ted Ginn, very inconsistent hands. This kid has that type of speed, but he catches everything, and he's extremely tough. He's just not as polished of a route runner as the other two right now, and that's something I think he can get better at, but it's a little bit of that is the curse of speed, because when you're moving that fast, it is hard to get in and out of breaks to gear down. So that's always going to be a little bit of an issue. But Tyreek Hill has been the comparison for him, and that's the blueprint for how you use him. And I know a lot of teams are looking for this type of player. Just as a football fan, I want to see what Kyle Shanahan could do with Ruggs, with his speed, and with his toughness with the ball in his hands. I just envision, the stretch bootleg that they like to run there, and having Ruggs running those deep over routes and watching, people try and run with that dude. No chance. And I think Kyle Shanahan got a front row seat to see what the speed look like in the Super Bowl with Tyreek Hill on the biggest play of the season that cost them a Super Bowl ring. And that speed was the difference. So I think they'll know what that value is, and I would love to see what he could do with him creatively. Man, it would be a lot of fun. But don't get me wrong, those other top 3 receivers, and I would throw Justin Jefferson even in there, although 13 might be a little bit early. But any of the top 4 receivers in a Kyle Shanahan offense are going to be extremely productive. They're great players.
Last question, we were able to actually get in there with Daniel on the conference call, and he's going to talk about the impact of the draft and how things are going to be vastly different this year for teams trying to make selections without having met a lot of these players face-to-face, not being able to evaluate them with their own team doctors. This is just going to be a very different situation.
It's going to really impact the non-combine players. Maiden's different. If you're a non-combine player, you're at Alabama, and teams have seen you in the fall, seen you at all-star games. They've had exposure to you. They're more comfortable with you. They're going to be more comfortable turning in the card. Now, some teams will still even have a problem with those guys because they might not have medical on them. But the non-combine players where you didn't get a chance to get medical, where you didn't get a chance to visit with them, it's gonna penalize them a little bit, unfortunately, and it's going to be the benefit of the guys that were big school players or guys that have been to the combine. The medical is the biggest hang up on these guys, because the last thing you want to do is assume you've got a healthy player and you spend a 4th round pick on him, and he comes to your building and you find out, oh gosh, this guy, he's got arthritic knee and, or some other type of an issue. So not having a chance to get your own medical on those players is going to be tough.
There you have it from Daniel Jeremiah. And Noah, 2 conference calls and not a lot of talk about the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. We were able to get in there just a little bit, and we heard Mel Kiper talk about how, the Raiders' possibility of drafting Jordan Love, the quarterback from Utah State, and how you're going to have to beat Patrick Mahomes in that division. Of course, people know that, and also the comparison you heard from Daniel Jeremiah from Henry Ruggs to Tyreek Hill. So you're getting some comparisons. People are looking at the Chiefs, but kind of from a distance, because everyone else is trying to get better and trying to beat them. So, that's kind of where we are right now. The Chiefs are the defending champions, but everyone else is trying to find that quarterback, receiver, guard, whatever it may be, to get up there and challenge the Chiefs in 2020.
Yeah, it's a tall order. I mean, the Chiefs are just kind of running it back here as they bring back Bashaud Breeland. They bring back Sammy Watkins. Chris Jones is still a member of the team as of right now. So we'll wait to see kind of what happens with that whole scenario. Is he going to play on the franchise tag? Will he be traded? Will he sign a long-term deal? We're just kind of in a holding pattern for right now on Chris Jones' status for 2020, where he's going to play. But I mean, you just hear Mel Kiper there and just the savant of the draft. Any name that was thrown at him during the entire press conference, we just played a few clips here, but it went on well over an hour, and just any name that was thrown at him, a long snapper, a kicker, a punter, people that aren't even going to be drafted from the University of Miami. People were asking about 4 players from there. He just knew them all instantly, didn't have to scroll through any notes or anything. So it was just, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like a savant, like just any name you could throw at him from any school, and he's going to have just a plethora of information on them. It was amazing to listen to. And then Daniel Jeremiah right there just talking about 5 years down the road, we're going to know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing, just how different this draft is going to be, and just, how teams are coming at the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are just running it back. Meanwhile, people are, they're adding some players, but they're also losing a lot. So I think the Chiefs have to be the favorite moving into 2020.
Well, as we put a bow on this NFL Draft 2020 special, I want to thank Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah for joining us here on the podcast. It's been tremendous bringing you guys this content. Again, you can subscribe to our podcast on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Any way you choose to take in your podcast, you can definitely get the Elite. And we bring you the Elite because where else are you going to hear this kind of information? Obviously, Mel Kiper's mock draft is locked up there on ESPN. You got to be an ESPN Plus subscriber. We're able to bring you the quotes there, and Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network. So tremendous to be able to do that, Noah, as we look forward to this draft. It is coming up here. It's Thursday. It's fast approaching. Excitement level for this draft? I mean, is it a different level of excitement? What are you feeling, kind of the vibe going into this? Obviously, a live broadcast with thousands of people from the Las Vegas Strip. would have a much different vibe. So this is different, but obviously we're starved right now. What's this going to look like here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. GMs, coaches, scouts, all from their home, kind of on Zoom meetings. Roger Goodell is going to be giving the picks from his home. There's going to be different places that are having it, ABC, ESPN, NFL Network. I think ABC is going to have their own draft kind of set up, and then NFL Network and ESPN are going to have theirs. So the whole setup's going to be interesting, but I am all in for this because I don't want to say this as scary as it is. This may be the last kind of thing from the NFL we see this season. I hope it's not. I hope we get games, but this could be the last kind of taste of sports that we get. Maybe it's this draft, this virtual draft that we have. But so I'm going to be all in. I'm invested in this, rounds 1 through 7. I'm going to be turned to my television and watching it from start to finish because I don't know if there's going to be a season. This might be the last taste of some relevance of sports that I get. So I'm all in, but hopefully there is a season at some point, whether it starts in September, whether it's in October. Hopefully the season gets underway at some point.